Okay, so it is Saturday the 1st of March. I think technically they call it spring, according to the weatherman. I'm at Triathlon Show. I'm with Scott Neyedli. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Joe.
Right, one of those podcast things. We've got some questions from people. This is from Dave Hart, and he says, how do you effectively balance working and being a world-class Ironman racer, trainer, etc.? How do you manage to do that? I mean, what's the secret time crunch things that you do?
Well, I guess there's no secret. I obviously I cherry picked the races around, I guess, the middle of summer and the tail end of summer, because I know that's when I'm going to have my best form.
Right. Okay.
So I know that that's where I'm going to have like the most amount of training kind of behind me and banked in terms of, you know, selecting target races.
Okay.
And I think that was like, you know, one of the reasons that the Ironman UK and Ironman Wales went really well like last year.
Okay.
But, I mean, as to, I guess opposed to the time specific or time crunch like sessions, it probably wasn't really the best, but I did like what I could do. I didn't do any morning sessions as such, but instead of I guess getting up early and doing like a swim session stuff, I would bike or run to work. So
okay. How long is your bike to work then, roughly?
I'll probably only between 30 and 35 minutes, depending how windy it is.
Okay.
So, and then if I run the same route, it's maybe 40 to 45 minutes. And then in the way back home, I would take a longer route along the coast. That would take maybe about 45 minutes. Before doing maybe, I don't know, like a turbo or a run session at home, and then doing a swim squad later on. Okay. So if I was going to talk about specific sessions that were kind of tailored, I would do maybe 1 to 2 sessions in the evenings.
Right.
And like the sessions I'm doing in the mornings to and from work aren't really sessions, it's just getting extra miles.
Right.
Maybe even doing that fasted, so I'm kind of try to stimulate a fat burn to make that session a little bit more meaningful than actually just commuting.
Right, okay. And so the balancing act then can change probably day to day depending on what you're doing work-wise, because I know you've spoken before about being on call at the weekends, and that can change your training.
Yeah, well, even like during the week as well. I mean, say if I know I've got like a sales meeting, or I've got I'm on call, I have to go to morning ops meetings, I'll have to take the car to work. So so instead of, I try and bike and run to work as much as I can during the week if I can, or if the weather's really terrible, I'll take the car. But
so you've heard it there. Look, Ironman athletes can take the car if the weather's bad. Do you know what I mean? You know, some people think they. I think we all like to fight the weather from time to time, but at a certain point, you think, what is the point?
Well, exactly. Yeah. You have to be quite sensible. Why? Because just going back before, it's just extra miles. It's not a specific target session. So you know, rather than like, you know, for a half an hour bike or run to work, is it really like worth, like, you know, going hypothermic by the time you get into work, being you know, soaked to the bone, having to have a shower, and then feeling pretty miserable for about an hour or two afterwards. Yeah, you have to be a bit smarter. And
so I guess the lesson is that to balance it, you do make sure that you cut your cloth. You don't try and race too often, too many times, because you realise that you've got to fit it in with the travel, time off, and the amount of
logistics is a very big thing. Yeah. You have to. I mean, I actually hate traveling. I hate being in airplanes. I hate driving. I kind of look to cutting that down to, you know, as minimum as possible.
Right.
So I mean that played a part in, you know, I raced in UK last year, or 2 Ironman events from last year. So I raced Ironman UK, Ironman Wales. It's the same climate almost as it is in up north in Scotland. It's as close as you're going to get. You can have like all 4 seasons in one day in England, just as much as you do in like Scotland. And then I don't have to worry about time zones either. And you know, half a day I could be travelled on that be it either my homestay or hotel, wherever I'm racing. That weekend, I like having 2-3 days relaxing, racing, and back home again.
Somebody asked me a question because they didn't know. What was the weather conditions on your first Ironman win? What was that like the day?
So that would have been Ironman UK in 2007.
Yeah.
Pretty cool that a typical British, I wouldn't say summer, I would say it was probably closer to autumn. In fact, Ironman UK was, I think, the tail end, or if not the end of August, so it was at the end of, it would have been the end of summer, so it was a pretty cold day. I think, if I think back to it, it did stay dry, which was a bonus.
Yeah.
The kids race, or the Iron Kids race, or what it is like now, was the day before, and it was a complete washout.
Right.
And I actually
You didn't do that though.
No, I found it kind of ironic, I guess, and looking back to it, because I remember looking at all these parents forcing their kids to do this this race, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't even be fancy doing a short distance, let alone an Ironman distance race. So I was just happy it stayed dry.
Yeah. There was another one actually from Dave Hart, and he said, because he's connected with a certain person, how did Scott's legs hurt after riding with Magnus Backstedt in Lanzarote?
Very, very sore. I can confirm. Magnus has got a lot of power in the bike, and even when you see the size of Magnus, he's a big unit, but he knows how to smack the hell out of those pedals. So I was just the week in Lanzarote worked out to be really well. That I was able to get some good rides in with Magnus and the MTFO team that were there at the time. So it's not often you get the opportunity to kind of ride by these guys, but I found when I was training full time, 3-4 years ago, that you can learn a lot from semi-pro, pro cyclists, and it can really help you kind of push that much extra harder than you would do if you're just trying to grind out the miles yourself. So I try and be around people as much as I can. There's certain sessions I must do myself, but at this time of year where you're just interested in banging out long miles, all that base training, sit in the back of the pack if you can, because even with Magnus driving at the front, it's still sore.
And I think there's that thing that you can get the volume done on the bike, but it's a quite soul-destroying thing to try and do all those hours and miles, particularly if some of it has to be indoors, and do it all on your own. It's pretty difficult.
Well, I've always been a big believer of trying and surround myself with people as much as I can, if it fits into the plan. So most of my swims are done with a swim squad. I'll try and, if I can get out with a group ride, at least twice a week. There's certain sessions I want to be doing myself. If I'm doing run repeats, I try and do it at the same time that I know that the run club in Aberdeen's doing it. I kind of do the same amount of repeats. It's just I'm there I've got company for the first 45 minutes to an hour, but I'm carrying on those run repeats for an hour beyond that, to get my mileage up to what my target is for that day. But it makes a big difference knowing that there's always something to run down, or you got kind of company there, so it doesn't make it as hard as in the head, I guess.
One that came from a chap called David Rowe, and he said, now that you don't have to race to put dinner on the table, do you feel more relaxed?
My ex definitely thinks so. Because I still speak to her. It has been commented a couple of times, and I think, I don't know if it is. I think there's no financial burden on my shoulders as there was before, that you're kind of pressurized to do to get certain results. But think it also kind of comes with experience, but no, I think generally since I did like go back to work at the start of I think it was January 2011, I was able to look after myself a lot better in terms of, you know, getting a good physio, good chiropractor. So I'm looking after myself, getting a sports massage like once a week, a chiropractor I'd see every 3 or 4 weeks. And these were things that I know is really, really important to kind of the recovery aspect of training, but you don't have the cash for it and you're living like a breadline sort of existence, or kind of similar to, I like comparing it to when I was being like a student at university.
Right.
You could still live, but you're kind of live very to your limited means. These were some of the things I would cut out, even though I knew I needed it, but I just couldn't afford to.
So you've because in effect you've proven at a full-time pro level that you've got the ability to race very low 8 hours, that you can win Ironmans, and therefore actually that still is there.
I mean, I've definitely benefited as well. I mean, I was full-time for 5 years. You don't lose that. I can't train as much hours as I used to before. I can't maybe sleep as much, you know, get my power naps like during the day, but
and your boss knows that you're not getting power naps, does he?
No, I'm propped up by a team of 4 or 5 sales guys, so kind of asking me to kind of do torque and drag modeling most of the day. So I can't remember where I was going. What was the original question?
Well, it was that whole, you've kind of got the, you know, having had the genetic ability, then you can sit on that. You
know, once it's like one of these things, like, you know, how I build up my training, I'm not beasting myself over winter. I'm kind of like taking over, you know, keeping the muscle stimulated, so I'm in a good place to really get knuckled down and focus on my training once spring hits. Then I can start to bump up my hours, because the clocks go back, or they change. I can get more hours at night because we've got more daylight. But I guess Aberdeen's like, it's actually quite a good place to train, definitely over summer, because, you know, May, June, July, it doesn't get dark until 10.
Scottish San Diego, isn't it?
So that's right, something like that, I guess. So the big bulk of my training comes over summer. And you know, I think from the base I had from it was full time, it's just stimulating that neurofibers that have already been sort of tried and tested before. Once I get down to you know, a certain weight, I bang in a few similar sessions that I was doing as a full timer. It was starting to feel, well, actually I'm hitting the same sort of numbers I was done when I was you know, full time. That I could see my even like my resting heart rate was another one. It was getting as low as, I'm sure it was about 36 or 38 beats when I was waking up in the morning, and I was like, this was about July last year, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I've seen this before when I was full time, and I knew I was in good form back then. So I draw on a lot of experience I did when I was like a full time elite. That I know like the telltale signs. I know what I'm in that zone. That I'm in a good place to be.
And did the Ironman Wales experience rekindle even more sort of deep down enthusiasm? I mean, come on, none of us know what it's like to finish first, so you've got a different experience to most people. So
it was definitely a sweet feeling. I've always said that, you know, like one of the best experiences in the world is finishing an Ironman. Whether you come first or last, it's like you know, you hit that blue carpet, and it doesn't matter. You know, everyone goes through that highs and lows during an Ironman distance race. And when you see that blue carpet, red carpet, you kind of lose all that pain. And the finish shoot is always an awesome experience. It's just that much, little bit extra special, though. But actually, you were the first person to cross the line. And I'll be totally honest, I didn't think I could win a race not being full time. The last couple of years I've done like, I think, well, Wales was like the 3rd full Ironman distance race I did since going back to work. But I thought it was possible to podium. And at Ironman UK I came 4th, and I was I did a really great time. I'd actually, got to within about a minute of a second place, and I hit the wall though. That 3 or 4 miles to go.
Yeah.
And it was a very strange sensation coming away from that race. I think I proved a lot of things in that race, but I came away thinking I really want to win again.
Yeah.
I wanted a top 3. If I got my 3rd place in UK, I might not have done Wales. So
yeah. Well, like we've spoken about, actually, Ironman Wales wasn't really on the radar.
No, it wasn't in my race plan last year. It was just it was on the back of actually speaking to Lucy Gossage. She said she was racing it again, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can handle doing another Ironman distance race that close. Because managing the recovery, getting some training, and then trying to race again is a very, very fine line. Yeah. I know that some female elites have done or even a couple of male athletes have done Ironman races in back-to-back weeks, and I don't know about you, but when I finish an Ironman distance race, I can't walk up and down stairs for
let alone think about
3-4 days to think about racing. So it was. It turned out to be a very positive decision. But the back of UK, it did rekindle a lot of desire that I wanted to do better, and it was a very strange thing because I'm kind of thinking, well, hang on, I work Monday to Friday full time, I can't. I'm still feeling as competitive as I was when I was an Ironman. I don't like losing, but I think you have to be realistic, be proud of what I did. But I came away, no, I'm going to race again. I knew the form was there. I kind of looked at the mistakes that I made at UK, because I did make some mistakes in the swim. I made some mistakes in the nutrition, and these were the things that I dialed in and made very little error in Wales, and I executed a very good race from start to finish, and it was like, well, okay, I didn't expect to win, I didn't have the expectations of winning, but coming away from it, it was a very sweet feeling.
Good. And briefly, in case people don't know, what's the sort of bigger plan for 2014 in terms of, the first one's I'm a Lanzarote, and obviously being there just under a month ago is a nice kind of sensation to be on parts of the race course. But what would be a good 2014 for you?
Well, I basically I plan to do an Ironman Lanzarote and Ironman UK this year, and that's all I'm committing to until the end of July. I'm kind of putting all my eggs in one basket and hoping I'm getting a good result at Lanzarote, a good result at UK, and then if I have enough points through the KPR system on the back of the points they've got from winning Ironman Wales, I'm hoping that I might just have enough points to qualify for Kona. But I'll have to wait and see in July, because
but
that's the kind of the goal of the year, is to kind of get a pro start in Hawaii, but around work.
Absolutely.
And then
which
reevaluate things.
Absolutely, and and within the context of you're racing people that, the majority of those are absolutely full-time pros every day of the week, and so it is a tough ask, but it is a possible outcome. That's the thing, is that it's a possible outcome.
Well, I've specifically chosen Lanzarote and UK. Well, UK, I know the course. This is a course I've came first, second and fourth before. It's hard courses. They really suit the way how I race. If I can rip my weight down to a weight that I'm happy with, my power to weight and hard run courses really suit me. Lanzarote is a bit earlier in the season. I don't think I'll be in the same form I'll be at for UK, but I think if I can be very focused in the next 6 to 8 weeks before racing Lanzarote, I think I can be in a good place, but depends if I can bank what I'd like to bank, because obviously it's very dependent on the weather, and we're limited to kind of daylight hours and stuff. But
and that 30 hours in Lanzarote, was that a good springboard? Did you when you came back?
Well, that was it kicked off the start of this year, really, to be honest. It got me into a very good place. The start of the year didn't go too well because I was ill for the better part of 3 weeks, so kind of getting just back into exercise and getting rid of my chest infection. It cleared up just before I went to Lanzarote. That I hit, I think 5 to 6 hour days just about every day. That I came away really knackered, but I was able to kind of get through that. I would have liked to hit that amount of hours, but in the back of building myself up the start of the month, that wasn't to be. But
also with your full-time experience, it wasn't an age group are doing something that will leave them knocked out for 2 weeks. It actually was a kind of a reminder of you can focus on it.
I can do it. I can get through it. There's like some sessions where I can back off in hills. Like I was riding with a group, and if I was doing like a run off the bike, I don't mind running at a much lower speed than what I would like to, but I'm very attuned to, I don't really need my heart rate being really, really high, so I don't get caught. I've never been caught up in running certain speeds. It's just about getting sort of time and trying to keep my heart rate down, because I know once the weight comes off, once 6, 7, 8 weeks down the line, the speed just comes.
And that's the lesson. That's the lesson for the age
group. It needs to be there when it needs to be. I don't need to be killing myself all year round.
And so listen to that age group, as you don't need to be killing yourself all year round. It's this long game, isn't it? You need to be ready for Lanzarote, not 2 weeks before, not 2 months before. You need to be ready on the day.
Exactly. So
and that means you.
I see it time and time again. When I started the sport, and even now, I still see a lot of athletes that have been doing it, for a number of years, but try to kill themselves over winter, or trying to force out 4 or 5 hour rides when the weather is absolutely terrible. And it's like, don't go knocking yourself up. You've only been able to get out for 2 hours. Get a long bath, do maybe a slightly longer run, or just keep the run the same. It's like it's just get the frequency there, and let the longer stuff come as the weather gets warmer.
Right. Okay.
I mean, there was a saying by Billy Connolly, I can't remember what one of his stand-ups was. It was like, like the first sort of Brits that came to England, and how Scotland was found. There's, they kept walking north, and it's like there's no. Anyway, his quote was, "There's no such thing as bad weather, just wearing the wrong clothes." Having said that, you can wear the right clothes, but it can be really bloody Baltic up north. I mean, the weekend before I went to Lanzarote, I could only cycle an hour, and I went out with my full winter gear. There was horizontal hail and rain, and I've got really good gear that's supposed to be waterproof and stuff, but it was that strong that it's like soaked most of my legs. Did seep through. My shoes hardly ever get like wet. So, but it went through my shoes. But it was I couldn't feel my hands. It was borderline frostbite, and it was like. I planned doing 2 hours and I only did about an hour, and it's like, it's not worth it. I've spent about an hour in the bath getting yourself
warm again.
Get myself warm again. So.
And it is that thing, I think, that you. Apologies for listeners. There's a tannoy over the back of us, but it's that thing that sometimes, based on the weather, you need to change your plans, because if it's excessively, dangerous because of ice or horizontal hail, or the road is going to be treacherous because of the course you're taking and the wet and so on, you sometimes just have to change it. And that 1 hour you lost is pretty irrelevant, because it's just 1 hour of all the other hours.
And it's like winter as well. It's like, you have to enjoy it. I don't see the point in being miserable. I mean, there's certain sections where the weather's been pretty crappy, but if you're with a group and stuff, you can kind of get through some bad, some borderline weather that just, if you're on your own, it's just terrible. Like, I mean, last Sunday I was out. I'd only rode 5 minutes to the meeting point with a group, and then it was big like headwinds, and I'm like, I'm not looking forward to this at all. And I kind of sat back in the group, but an hour later it did kind of die down. But using a group and stuff, if I went out myself, I wouldn't have lasted 2 hours, and ended up going out for I think 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know, so.
There's something about the misery of groups, isn't there? You can kind of share it out.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first person, right? I'm turning down because then it'll set off a trend, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, this has been a good catch up, and it's good to see you at the Tri Show. I know there's a lot of things you've got to do. We will wrap this one up now, but we will be doing another podcast soon. So thank you for your time, and we'll perhaps have a little bit of a catch up either near to or just after Lanzarote.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay,
cool.
Cheers, guys.
All right, cheers, sure.